Fresh tomato soup. This is a delicious recipe that my wife Amy created a little while ago. This is really, really delicious. So without any further ado, let's get into it. We're gonna need some fresh tomatoes, celery, carrots, onions, garlic, a can of tomatoes, some chicken or vegetable broth. I've got vegetable broth in this case, and a can of coconut milk, and some thyme, either dried or fresh. So we're gonna put everything into the pot, we're gonna let it do its thing, and then we are going to let it settle down, and then we're gonna throw it into a blender and blend it all up so it's nice and pureed. So let's start off with the basics. To begin with, we're gonna need some onion. So we're gonna cut this up, and we will get it into the pot. So my pot is warming up. I'm gonna throw some butter in today to change things up a little, as opposed to using coconut oil. So this is a nice soup that's really flavorful and is quite substantial too because of the presence of coconut milk in it. It's got a really nice rich flavor, and a combination of using the fresh tomatoes with the canned tomatoes is really great. And again, because this is going to the food processor, you don't have to worry about going, or the blender, sorry, you don't have to worry about going too crazy in terms of mincing everything to the nth degree. So onions, I'm just gonna keep them like that. I kind of ran out of big carrots, so I'm just using mini carrots, little baby carrots here. So I'll just give these guys a little chop. Trying to keep these guys all in one place. It's like trying to herd cats. Five-second rule, it's all good. Okay, we'll get our celery going. Got some dirt on the celery. Remember, celery, very heavily pesticided. Try to get organic if you can. And at the very minimum, give it a good wash. Get all that dirt out. Just discard the bottom. And finally, our garlic. So I've got one that's still in its little casing. So I'm gonna give that a crush and get that skin off. Hopefully you've had a chance to see that very cool garlic opening trick that I showed you in one of the other videos, which I can't remember which one it was now, but definitely saves you a lot of time, and it's probably one of the neatest things you'll ever see when it comes to garlic. A lot easier than trying to individually unwrap each piece. And I think that's good. So we'll give these guys a little chop. All right, perfect. Okay, so I'm just gonna put the tomatoes to the side for a sec. I'm gonna bring this whole cutting board over to the pots in just a moment. So we'll get some butter in there first. Whoop. In the pots is a good idea. Moving it all around. Okay, so now we're gonna move, actually I'll bring the pot over, it's probably easier to do it that way. Get over my nifty oven mitts, AKA washcloth. So sometimes I go ghetto with this stuff in the kitchen. It does the trick. And if you make a mess, then it doesn't really matter. As long as you don't burn yourself in the process. All right, we're in. Okay, so we're gonna give that a little stir. Okay, so that's the base of our soup. Next, we're gonna go to our tomatoes. Now, I wanted to take a couple tomatoes here as examples. So we're using 5 tomatoes. A number of these tomatoes have weird looking kind of mold-like formations on them. So I've used these as examples to show you what to do if that's the case. You don't have to throw the whole thing out. You can just cut it off and you'll see the inside. It's still fine. So just discard that piece and throw it in the trash. So you don't have to get rid of the whole tomato and waste that. So same thing here, we've got some stuff going on. I'm just gonna cut that bit off. Have a look inside, looks good. We'll keep that around. This guy's good, this guy's good. This guy is good. So I'll just chop these up. We're gonna put these into the pot once everything softens up in there a little bit. So I'm just gonna get rid of the stem, throw that out. So I'm just, in terms of cutting these, I'm just doing one along the side, another along the side around the core, and like so. Then I just chop off the top part. So this is a soup that you can just make ahead of time, keep it in the fridge, heat it up when you want. Takes, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes altogether to make, and it'll definitely soothe your taste buds. Even our kids enjoy this one. So if you have picky kids, like most parents have, you give this one, give this to them. They'll really enjoy this. This is really good. Lots of great flavors. And maybe they like the red color as well. So I'm just gonna chop up all this good tomato. So we're using the fresh tomatoes, and then we're using a combination of that and the canned tomatoes, which is right next door. We'll put those in just a moment. Have a look over here. You want to have this on medium heat. Once the onions and garlic become a bit more translucent, then you can bring over the tomatoes. So this should be a fun migrating job. This cutting board is so big, I don't even know if I could carry it over there. So what I think I'm going to do is, again, bring the pot over and just dump them in like this. So tomatoes will go in. Again, I haven't chopped them up too small because again, they will be blended. All right, so now they're gonna do their thing. Can chop them up a little bit with the spatula in here. Okay, so next, that's done. You can throw in some thyme at this point, or really, it doesn't really matter whenever you want to put it in. I would put some in now just to kind of infuse into the tomatoes and the soup, and then you can throw a little bit more in towards the end. We're gonna use 5 cups of stock. As I mentioned before, this is a very high sodium version. So this is, and by very high sodium, I simply mean it's the normal version. 910 milligrams of sodium per 1 cup. So I'm gonna use 2 cups and then do about I'll use 2 cups of water just because we'll have a lot of fluid from the canned tomatoes. So that's 2 cups, 500 mils on the dots. We'll add in another 500 for 1 liter. So that's 1 liter, okay. Gonna throw all that in. Next, we're gonna throw our canned tomatoes in. And don't ask me why, Amy, you use canned tomatoes as well as fresh tomatoes. I don't know. All I know is that it tastes really good. And here's the secret sauce. A whole can of coconut milk. So this is, it's kind of like you're thinking, well, why would I put coconut milk into my soup? And that's because it tastes really good. So I'm just gonna double check that I haven't forgot anything. I think we're good. Okay, so we'll just dump this in. So this has been sitting, this can of coconut milk has been in the fridge. So it's a little bit more solid than normal, if you can see in there. It's very buttery. So if you let it sit on the counter, what you'll find is that the top kind of has that creamy layer. Underneath it though is a lot more liquid. If you put it in the fridge, it all becomes very creamy. Obviously in the soup, it'll dissolve into water, as that's what happens with coconut milk as it gets heated up. Okay, we'll just okay, so everything is in. Now it's just a waiting game. So we are done in terms of ingredients that we have to put in. You can put in, don't even put in salt because we've already put in, the vegetable broth or the chicken broth, whichever you've used. We're gonna let this sit. I'm gonna cover it. We're gonna let it sit for about 20 minutes. Once that's done and everything's softened up, we're gonna take it off the heat. We're gonna bring it into the blender. We're gonna blend that up into a nice puree, and that will be our soup. So let's give it a few minutes. Okay, so the soup has been doing its thing for about 30 minutes. I just let it go a little bit longer than I thought. But you know what? If it is a little bit more watery or liquidy than you want, all you have to do is take off the lid and let it simmer. The water will evaporate, leaving more flavor and awesomeness. So that's what I've done. So it's been sitting for a few minutes because I don't want to put it in piping hot into my blender. But this is the fun part. Trying not to get killed as you pour stuff into the blender. I'm gonna scoop in, I don't know if all that's gonna fit in, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna scoop in the goodness so I have a good ratio of goodness to liquid. And by goodness, I mean like the chunkier tomatoes and celery and all that stuff. So once that's in, we can just do another quick blend of this stuff once we're ready. But for now, we'll throw this on the base. And remember, in one of the previous videos that we did, if you've seen that one yet, once we got this going, I took the lid off to let some of the steam out. Because if you don't, you're gonna be blending a hot soup under power. It's gonna get pretty like volcanic, okay? So it's on low, on. Okay, near-death experience. So see how kind of like to the rim that is? I turned it on, had a little explosion, got some on my hand. I think I might have to get a skin graft now because this is a first-degree burn. Not really, but you can see how this could get wrong, how it could go wrong. So don't fill the Vitamix up this full. Maybe go half, get it started, open up the lid, at least the little vent, and then you should be okay. So this is still pretty hot, but we're still gonna pour it out into our bowl. And again, if that's too runny for you, then just let it sit. Just you can actually put this back on the stove and let it sit, you know, evaporate some more water. And there we go. This is our fresh tomato soup. This is, I'm telling you, this is amazing. Okay, I'm not tasting it right now because it's so hot, but this is one of the best tomato soups you'll ever have. And if you want to top it off with some thyme as it's blending to add a little more kind of thyme-ness to it, you can do that. But this is awesome. In and of itself, it's a meal. You can add it as a kind of a starter or a side, and it's just chock full of awesome flavor and amazing nutrition. Enjoy.